Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We are live. We are live. We are live. It is a Metropolitan Report here on a Monday night. It is Monday night, 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time, May 11th, 2026. And we're going to skip the formalities and just get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Mets off day today, so that's why we're doing the show. Shout outs to my good friend Drew Learned and Alfredo Flores in the comments. I see you guys. And you know what? We're gonna get to the big news. believe me, we're gonna get to the big news. Lots to cover. But ladies and gentlemen, it is a grand day in Mets lore. If you're a Mets fan, as we are here on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on Twitch, live on YouTube. Before we begin anything, go down below. You see the socials all down here, all down here. We are on YouTube, Metropolitan Report Podcast, Instagram, _Metropolitan_Report, on X, Mets_Report_Pod, and on Facebook at Metropolitan Report. So make sure you follow us. No matter where you watch us, get us on the YouTube because that's where all the exclusive stuff goes down. All the action goes down on the YouTube, all the good stuff. Hello to everybody watching tonight. This won't be a particularly long show because it's late, 10:06 p.m. Eastern Time as we are recording. But the Mets go 5-4 on the road trip. Series win against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Series win against the Colorado Rockies, and then they drop a series 2-1 to the Arizona Diamondbacks. But the big news, yes, the Mets went 5-4 on the road trip, 1 game over 500. Ideally, you would have liked them to go 6-3. This Mets team struggling, decimated with injuries. Jorge Polanco still on the injured list. Francisco Lindor still on the injured list. Luis Robert Jr. still on the injured list. These are all guys who were brought here to make a difference, all hurt. Juan Soto slumping. We'll get to him in a minute. Bo Bichette not doing any better. So the Mets had to make a move, and they went ahead, and the news broke about a half an hour ago. A.J. Ewing, somebody who we've talked about on this channel. If you really pay attention to our channel, we talked about him when we highlighted the Mets prospects to watch this season. That was a couple of weeks ago. And, of course, if you were paying attention to the channel when we went to spring training back at the end of February, early March, we did 2 spring training vlogs. A.J. Ewing featured in both of the spring training vlogs. A.J. Ewing called up. He'll join the team tomorrow when the Mets open a 3-game set against Detroit Tigers. The Mets are calling up Ewing, who right now is probably the most exciting prospect in the organization. 21 years of age is Ewing, drafted by the Mets in the 4th round in 2023. He finished the 2025 season last season in Double-A Binghamton, and he had 2 promotions earlier that season. And then he started this season back in Binghamton. In Binghamton, he hit .349 with 2 home runs and 12 stolen bases before being promoted to AAA Syracuse. In Syracuse this year, he played in 12 games, batting .326. No home runs in Syracuse, but he's stolen 5 more bases. So he stole 12 in Binghamton. He stole 5 in Syracuse in the 12 games. He has a grand total of 17 stolen bases in the minors this year, only caught stealing once. So A.J. Ewing, a defensive highlight reel. He's also good with the bat as well. He's not going to be a power guy, but he is going to be a contact guy. I know my good friend Drew Learned. He's in the comments somewhere watching this. He's very familiar with Drew Learned. He's very familiar with A.J. Ewing. And he's the Mets' number 2 ranked prospect. Actually, number 2 ranked prospect in all of baseball. So, welcome to the show, A.J. Ewing. I probably it would surprise me that the Mets would call him up and not put him in the lineup tomorrow against the Tigers. Of course, the Mets don't know who or what they're going with until a little later on, closer to first pitch. But A.J. Ewing is a New York Met. No news on who the Mets are going to get rid of to make space for A.J. Ewing. But my best guess is Andy Ibanez. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Especially after the the errors he made over the weekend at third base. So I predict Andy Ibanez, who I didn't even know why he was on this team to begin with. He's probably going to be gone. I don't see them sending Carson Bench down. Benj and Ewing will probably play in the corners of the outfield. Tyrone Taylor, he's going to stick around as long as Luis Robert Jr. is hurt. There's no Jared Young. There's no Luis Robert. So, but yeah, Andy Ibanez is probably getting out of town. But AJ Ewing, big news. And I like AJ Ewing a lot. Again, we highlighted AJ Ewing on our spring training vlog. Guy with great defense. Defense not as good as Carson Benj's, but still up there as elite level defense. And yeah, great speed. Only been caught stealing once out of 18 attempts in the minors this season. Now, again, I know AA and AAA are two totally different things than Major League Baseball. I get it, but I listen. The way that I see it, this is the right time to call up AJ Ewing. Reason why I say that is because we got guys like Juan Soto, Bo Bichette, Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, Francisco Alvarez, guys who are not producing. And I rather have a slumping rookie who's getting acclimated to big league pitching not do well than the guys you pay hundreds of millions of dollars to striking out and swinging at horrible pitches and just overall not producing. So AJ Ewing going to join the team tomorrow. Mets open a homestand against the Detroit Tigers. Of course, the Detroit Tigers going through their own problems. More on that later. But the Mets going to play the Detroit Tigers tomorrow, and AJ Ewing will be in Flushing, will be in a Mets uniform, and more than likely will be in a Mets lineup. So I did say if Austin Slater started off his Mets career batting 300, I'd give some tickets away. I've got 2 tickets to tomorrow's game. I'm not going. So if anybody wants to go, just let me know. Those tickets are yours. But AJ Ewing, again, getting called up from AAA. And I was very critical of Carson Benj because Carson Benj only played 24 games. Oop, light crash. Sorry about that. But Carson Benj only played 24 games at the AAA level. I was critical of that. AJ Ewing, even smaller sample size in AAA with only 12 games. So it remains to be seen what AJ Ewing could do. But again, I rather give the kid a shot. The Mets 10 games under 500. Something you got to try something different. This might be the spark that lights the fire under the Mets, or the Mets might continue their horrid play, and we'll see what the kids have. But AJ Ewing getting called up, I like this move a lot. He's a guy, again, makes great contact, won't give you much power, but he'll put the ball in play more than he'll strike out. He can run very well, a stolen base thief, and again, he's a defensive highlight reel. So AJ Ewing will be in the lineup. AJ Ewing is not somebody he's not going to be like a JJ Weatherholt or a Kevin McGonigal, somebody who's going to blow us away. But if he does stay in the majors for at least 68 to 75 games, I could see him realistically batting 250. But yeah, it remains to be seen. Again, they're calling him up. You don't call a guy up and not put him in the lineup. So I'm very excited to see what AJ Ewing is going to do in Queens. Going to the comments real quick before we continue. My good friend, loyal supporter, Drew Learn says, "What's up, Alfred? Ewing just got called up. I'm excited." My guy, Alfredo Flores, "Evening, everyone. Wants to know why Carlos Mendoza is still managing this team. I get it. Stearns has been real culprit, but we need a new voice in the clubhouse." As far as Mendoza, as much as I want him gone, he is in the final year of a 3-year contract. And again, I've said it on the program before. If David Stearns fires Carlos Mendoza, it is an admission of failure. I don't think Stearns wants to publicly admit that he failed. So he'll let Mendoza ride out the contract. I mean, we've already seen Rob Thompson from the Phillies and Alex Cora from the Red Sox. Alex Cora, who won a ring with those Red Sox, by the way, back in 2018. They've already been shown the door for much less. The Phillies went ahead and hired Don Mattingly, and they're winning more than they're losing. So you would think the Mets would take a page out of their book, but apparently not. My good friend Clint Alexander says the Metropolitan Report returns. You know it. Thank you for watching. Alfredo Flores. Meanwhile, Phillies in second NL East since Marlins and Nationals back to struggling again. And again, I know it's early, but it's been 40 plus games in the majors, and a lot of these teams are about to show you who they really are. Unfortunately for us, the Mets have already shown us who they are. Drew Learn says he, referring to AJ Ewing, went from the number 28 ranked prospect to the number 2 ranked prospect. It's baseball. Anything can happen. Very true. And Alfredo says, are we going to be sellers at the trade deadline if the Mets continue to struggle? Look at the Giants cleaning house right now, knowing their season is over. If the Mets are not by at least 500 by the trade deadline, I realistically could see them moving several pieces. Freddie Peralta, maybe Francisco Alvarez. The only guys that are safe, in my opinion, Nolan McLean, Carson Benj, because they're the future, and Juan Soto, because nobody in their right mind is going to eat that contract. Same thing for Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette is going to be safe past the deadline. Nobody's eating the contract. Depending on what's up with Francisco Lindor, don't be surprised if he gets moved. He signed that 10-year extension in 2021. It's now 2026, so the amount of money he's owed won't be as much. So, but yeah, the Mets, Freddie Peralta might get moved too. He's an expiring contract. Might want to see what you could get for him instead of extending him. See what you could get for him instead of just having him walk if he doesn't want to re-sign. So that's my opinion. But going to the Mets, despite all the AJ Ewing hype and the AJ Ewing news, and mind you, I don't recommend looking at a 21-year-old kid in the minors as a savior. That's just asinine. Sorry, mouth was getting dry. I had to take some water. But aside from all the AJ Ewing hype, let's talk about the Mets. Pitiful, pitiful, pitiful series in Arizona. And, you know, I watch this team, and of course, I watch most games, whether they're home or if they're home, I'm usually at Citi Field. If they're away, I'm watching on SNY or Pix 11 or whatever channel the Mets are playing on. I also do have a MLB TV subscription, but it's beyond painful to watch this team. You look at the Diamondbacks series. The Mets were outscored in the series, and it's not even gonna sound that bad, but 8-5. You would think through 3 games, 8-5 wouldn't be bad. I mean, the Mets went into extra innings on Friday. They won the game 3-1. Mark Vientos was the hero. Go-ahead run with his RBI double. Nolan McLean pitched a heck of a game on Friday night. 6 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. Only gave up 3 hits. The bullpen was solid the rest of the game. Luke Weaver, Brooks Raley, Devin Williams, and Tobias Myers. No runs allowed. Williams and Myers didn't give up a hit. And great overall game from the pitching staff. Then you go to Saturday, and Saturday was where the disaster is. You look at Saturday, and the Mets, they dropped the game 2-1. In this game, Clay Holmes, spectacular. Clay Holmes, 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs on 5 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. That's not a bad line. Not a bad line at all. Austin Warren, no runs allowed, 1 1/3 inning, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 strikeout. And then you had Craig Kimbrell, who a lot of people now, listen, hey, I know Craig Kimbrell is a guy who in spring training I was a big advocate for. The man is probably going to go in the Hall of Fame. Top 8 closer in the record book. He's got 442 lifetime saves. Former Rookie of the Year, World Series champion, 9-time All-Star, 7-time Reliever of the Year. Craig Kimbrell, you got to respect the man and his resume. He's had shaky moments as a Met, but he was solid on Saturday. Pitched an inning, didn't allow any hits. He did walk 2, but didn't give up a run and struck out 1. So, but the problem is the Mets only scored 1 run. Brett Beatty on an RBI double. So you have the clunker on Saturday, 2-1, right? Then you get to Sunday. And Sunday is when this Mets team looked really awful. They lose 5-1. You look at the pitching, they went with a bullpen game. Huascar Brazaban was the opener. He pitched an inning, gave up 2 runs without allowing a hit. He walked 3, gave up 2 runs, struck out nobody in the first inning. Tobias Myers, solid. No runs on a hit, 2 strikeouts. David Peterson, 5 innings. No runs, no earned runs allowed, 4 hits, no strikeouts. No walks, 3 strikeouts, excuse me. And Sean Manaea, no earned runs, 1 inning pitched, 1 walk, 2 Ks. But the Mets just couldn't score. And the common theme here is the Mets offense can't get you more than 1 run lately. It seems that, here's what I noticed. The Mets offense can't get you more than 1 run. And when they do get you that 1 run, it's like you almost have a heart attack because they get you the 1 run with 2 outs. 2 out rallies are the hardest thing to do in baseball. And what's more frustrating, you look at where the RBIs and the run production is coming from the bottom of the order. Brett Beatty in 1 game, Luis Torrens in the other. And it's just unacceptable. You cannot win games in Major League Baseball scoring just 1 run. It's impossible. It's impossible. You cannot win games scoring just 1 run. I don't care who you are. I don't care what team you play for. No team in the majors is going to, well, there are some teams that can win 1-0. The Athletics beat us 1-0 at one point in time. But when you can only score 1 run a game, you're never going to be successful. And if the Mets keep going this route where they score 1 run a game, we will be 25 games under 500 by the trade deadline. I'll say it again. We will be 25 games below 500 by the trade deadline if this offense doesn't wake up. And for the team that has the 2nd highest payroll in all of baseball, and for a team who has the owner with the biggest bankroll in all of baseball, it's embarrassing. And this goes back to not spending the money or spending the money in wrong places. Like, look at our roster. Granted, Lindor and Robert and Polanco are hurt. But look what you filled the roster with. Andy Ibanez, Vidal Brujan. Andy Ibanez should never see a field for a major league team. Austin Slater's having a decent back of his baseball card so far this season, but that's because he's in a bench role. He's not playing every day. Austin Slater's never had a good season of baseball. Career high 12 home runs in the season. And he's not going to start. He's not going to start and become a Cliff Floyd tomorrow. And then this brings me to disappointments because you look at the Mets payroll. The Mets, and I want all of you who say that I'm biased on this program to listen very carefully of what I'm about to say. Because a lot of people have told me in private conversations, oh, you're biased. This guy could do no wrong, and you never call. Listen, I call people out when they deserve to be called out. And I got to call this guy out. I am extremely disappointed in Juan Soto. Now, I know the last time out on this program, I said I like the idea of him hitting leadoff, right? He hit leadoff in Colorado. He did pretty well in that series. Again, it was in Coors Field. Every batter loves to hit in Coors Field, but Juan Soto goes to Arizona. And for the first time in my life, I looked at Juan Soto in a Mets uniform, and I just had to shake my head and said, what's going on? He is the highest paid player in Major League Baseball. And he didn't get a single hit the entire series against the Diamondbacks. Juan Jose Soto Pacheco laid a massive egg 3 straight games. Now, granted, all of the Mets struggles are not on Pacheco, but a guy like him shouldn't be struggling this bad. You want to look at Pacheco's output during the Diamondback series. The man had 10 at-bats. In 10 at-bats, he went 0 for 10. Juan Soto went 0 for 10 against the Diamondbacks. He did walk twice, albeit one of the walks was an intentional walk. So take that for what you will. Granted, he only struck out twice in the series. 2 strikeouts to 2 walks, but 0 for 10? That's unacceptable. He went 0 for 10 with 2 walks and 2 strikeouts. I love Juan Soto. Juan Soto is my favorite player on this team. But we cannot pay a guy $800 million to go 0 for 10 in a series. You look at all the great names of the past who were the greatest players on their teams. Alex Rodriguez, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Chipper Jones, Vladimir Guerrero Sr., and Tony Gwynn, Kirby Puckett, and I could name guys for days. But none of those guys could go 0 for 10 in a series. And you know what? Juan Soto's body language, now I know he was hurt earlier this year, but Juan Soto's body language has been rotten as of late. It seems like he just doesn't want to be out there at times. The media catches up to him after the game, asks him if he's worried about the Mets' performance. He says no. Now, granted, you got to have your poker face on. You don't want any of the opposition to see that the struggles of the team and your own struggles are affecting you. But come on, let's be real here. We all see it. I love Juan Soto as a batter, but defensively, and this is before this season because he did it last season, there's no hustle. He'll see a ball go in the corner or see a ball go in the gap. He doesn't kick it into gear to try to get the ball back into the infield as quickly as possible. He'll hot dog it, as some people will say. You know, a lot of people looked at Francisco Lindor and said he should have been the captain of the club. Granted, Steve Cohen said there's not going to be a captain as long as he owns the team. But since Soto got here, people were looking at him like it was his team. But you can't say this is my team or act like this is my team. Going 0 for 10 in a series where your team is struggling. The one game they won in the series, Pacheco didn't even contribute. The 2 games they lost, even worse, didn't contribute. You can't go 0 for 10 in a series when you are the highest paid player in the game today. I don't want to hear any excuses. It's the equivalent of over in the NBA. I know this is not a basketball program, but it's the equivalent of Nikola Jokic on the Nuggets, them getting bounced in the first round, and this guy is an MVP contender every single year. You can't be the highest paid or the best and put up a stinker of a performance like that. No, 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 no. No, it's just not going to work. It can't happen. It cannot. It cannot happen. It can't happen. And then Soto, bold-faced, looks in the media and says he's not worried. I'd be worried if my best player and the guy who makes more money than anybody else in the history of this sport ever had went 0 for 10 against a team that, quite frankly, is a middle-of-the-pack team, not taking away anything from the Diamondbacks and Ildemaro Vargas and Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte. But he not just Soto, but the entire Mets team on Saturday faced Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly, who had an ERA of 9.55 going in to that game Saturday. And you mean to tell me you're facing a guy with an ERA slightly south of 10 and you couldn't get a hit off of him? That's embarrassing. Juan Soto couldn't mash one off of Merrill Kelly. This Mets team and Soto, they had Merrill Kelly looking like the second coming of Randy Johnson on Saturday night. Not to mention, the Diamondbacks bullpen outside of Paul Sewell, their closer was a former Met, is not that good. And they couldn't get anything going against the Diamondbacks pitching staff. 9.55. They got to Ryan Nelson. Well, actually, no, they didn't, because the game went into extras after Nelson was pulled from the game. Ryan Nelson had an ERA north of 7. Mets were lucky to win that game that it went to extras. But Soto's got to get his head back in the game. I don't know what's going on. Maybe being away from home was the issue. But Juan Soto has got to do better. There's no excuse why Juan Soto faced a batter twice in a game. Or faced a pitcher, twice in a game, whose ERA was was a tick below 10 and couldn't do anything off of him. I'm sorry. Like, I love Juan Soto, but we got to hold folks accountable on this program here. But Juan Soto, I'm completely disappointed in that series. He was starting to teeter off in the Colorado series, but you know what? Get him off leadoff. Get Juan Soto off leadoff. Put him back to 2 or 3. I wouldn't mind Soto at 2. Definitely wouldn't mind him at 3 as a power guy and the focal point of the offense. If it was up to me, Bichette, I don't know who's batting leadoff. I wouldn't mind Carson Benj at leadoff, depending on who the opposing pitcher is. But Bo Bichette at 2, Juan Soto at 3. But we can't have any more 0 for 10. So Detroit Tigers coming to town starting tomorrow. And you can't have another 0 for the whole series. So Soto's got to get it together. I never thought I'd see the day that I would have a criticism of Pacheco, but here we are. And I don't even think it's an indictment on him, to tell you the God's honest truth. I think I honestly think that he's slumping at the wrong. He's just slumping at the wrong time. But he's slumping at the wrong time. But it's also unacceptable. Can't be the face of the team and the leader of the team and have that bad of a stretch, especially because you faced a pitching staff where, outside of Eduardo Rodriguez this weekend, the pitching staff was just god awful. You got one guy in Ryan Nelson, ERA over 7, and another guy in Merrill Kelly, ERA close to 10, and you have them looking like the second coming of Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson. It just can't happen. It can't happen. And I hope it doesn't happen the rest of the season. I'm going to get to the comments here. Where were we in the comments? Clint Alexander, my good friend, says Stearns, talking about David Stearns, the GM, was so highly touted and coveted. He turned out to be such a dud for a GM. Mets need a full reset from the front office to the roster. And I agree. And I've listen, you could go browse this channel. You could go into YouTube archives. I've never deleted a video. I've been calling for David Stern's job since last year, from before the collapse last season. Listen, David Stearns, if this Mets team doesn't make the playoffs, which I don't think they will, quite honestly, I think this Mets team is going to lose 90 games. They're on pace to lose 100. Hopefully, it doesn't get that way, but I personally believe they're going to lose 95 games. That happens and there's no playoffs, Stearns has got to go because he built this team. He destroyed the team from the inside. He gutted the heart and soul of this team. And you know what? Here's an interesting stat for you, right? David Stearns had the gall to not even extend an offer to Pete Alonso after Baltimore offered Pete what they did. And I know I'm bringing up Pete Alonso, and a lot of people say, "Oh, get over it. Pete's no longer here. He didn't want to be here." Well, he had no choice. It's not that he didn't want to be here. He had no choice of being here because the smug Harvard graduate told him pretty much to go F himself and then said good luck in Baltimore when he came back with the offer. How many times do you see in sports a guy who wants to stay for a team gets an offer from somewhere else in free agency, goes back to the team he wants to play for that he's played for his whole career, and says, "Look, this is what they offered me. What can we do here?" And the man tells you, "Good luck." Like, no. And you know what? Defensively, if you look at the defensive metrics this season, Pete Alonso is the best defender at first base in the majors. Yeah, you heard me right. Matter of fact, we're gonna look up the stat. We are going to look up the stat. Let's see. I'll put it in Google. Who is the best defensive first baseman this season? Yeah, Pete Alonso. And he's starting to come around with the bat. And what was the reason Stearns shoot him away? Oh, he's not a good defender. He has 3 defensive runs saved in Major League Baseball and 1 out above average, a significant improvement from his -9 outs above average in 2025. Ranking highly in defensive runs saved and performing among top. He is the top performing first baseman in the league in outs above average. But yet he was cited that his defense was poor, so they shoot him away. So not only did the guy who you shoot away, who was good for 40 home runs and 100 RBIs every year, by the way, you shoo him away. And then you don't even replace him with a proper first baseman. You've played a backup left fielder, 2 third basemen, no, 3 third basemen and a backup left fielder at first base, and none of it has worked out. And the guy who you said whose defense couldn't be trusted is the best first baseman defensively in baseball so far this season. So there's egg on David Stearns' face. Alfredo Flores says Vientos definitely be tradable if the Mets continues the struggles. Cardinals monitoring his radar. I wouldn't be surprised to see Vientos go either. Drew Learn says what was so frustrating about the game on Saturday is we had 5 hard hit balls that were hit to the deepest part of the ballpark and were caught for outs. In every other ballpark, those balls are gone. I mean, yeah, that's Chase Field, Drew. That is Chase Field for you. Chase Field is a ballpark. It's similar to Fenway and different than Fenway. Fenway, the Green Monster, we all know, robs batters of home runs in other ballparks. Chase Field is just so big that a lot of what would be home runs in about 27 other stadiums, not home runs in Chase Field. They're fly ball outs. Drew also says he's got to run. He's got a baseball game tomorrow. He'll catch the rest on replay. Drew, take it easy. Shout out to you, sir. Everybody go check out Drew Learn on YouTube. He makes some really good edits. Alfredo Flores says if Kimbrel somewhat performs well, he would also be on the trade block to the Padres. I don't see Kimbrel going anywhere, only because Kimbrel, to be quite honest with you, if Craig Kimbrel drew any interest from any teams in the majors, I would be very surprised. This is more of a last ride for Kimbrel. I predict this is going to be his last season in the majors. He was just lucky to catch on to a very bad team in the Mets. Prell says the Athletics beat the Mets 1-0 because the Mets only score 1 or nothing. That is also true. Alfredo says, what is Tampa Bay Devil Rays payroll? They're first in the AL East, 26-14 so far above the Yankees. Yes, because the Yankees got swept at the hands of the Brewers last night, and they lost tonight as well. And yeah, I said this months ago. Just because you have a high payroll does not guarantee you success. Tampa Bay Devil Rays, or the Tampa Bay Rays, they can't say Devil Rays anymore, but the Tampa Bay Rays, small market team, they're usually in the mix in the playoffs almost every season. A team like the Cleveland Guardians, mid-market level team, they're always in the mix. 2015, the Kansas City Royals. 2019, the Washington Nationals. Both small market teams. They are teams that have won World Series with small payrolls. Just look at the World Series a couple of years ago. Texas Rangers, even though Texas is a huge state, Texas doesn't spend much. They played the same Arizona Diamondbacks, who don't spend much either, and they were both in the World Series. So you don't just listen. If payroll determined who won and who lost, the Dodgers would have had a World Series every year since 2020, and not 3 in 6 years. Alfredo also says, at least the Knicks swept the 76ers, so New York fans sacrificed Mets season for NBA championship. They're not in championship yet, but we'll hold off. Maya Guez Mets 62 says, let's trade for Yandy Diaz. Wouldn't be a bad move. Clint says, Juan Toto is still missing the Yankees. I don't want to hear about that. Shaw Money says, he thought the best decision was to lead off. Talking about my opinion of Soto. Listen, I can't be right all the time. Even a broken clock is right at least twice a day. But listen, it's just a baseball move that was made. It's not working out. Alfredo Flores says Devin Williams is regretting signing with the Mets over Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. Devin Williams, he wasn't going to be good anywhere that he was going to go, and I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh, who was above 500, they'd rather have Dennis Santana than Devin Williams. I'm sorry. Clint Alexander says Carson Benj is mid, too early in his career to determine that. Clint Alexander asking me, am I making excuses for Soto or criticizing? Which one is it? I'm not making excuses. I'm just looking at the situation in reality. But going 0 for 10 in a series can't happen. It just cannot happen. Cannot happen whatsoever. It is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. So as we roll on this Metropolitan Report, I want to bring up something going back to this Diamondback series and beyond the Diamondback series. Gary Cohen, the Mets broadcaster, brought up an interesting stat on the telecast on Sunday. At one point, he said there have been 10 games this season where the Mets were retired 11 in a row. Mets are 10 games under 500. I just found that very interesting that there's a stat saying that there's been 10 games where they've gone down 11 batters in a row, which is absolutely crazy to me. But this Mets team has got to get it together because the schedule coming up is not going to be easy. Not going to be easy at all. They host the Detroit Tigers in a 3-game series starting tomorrow. 7 o'clock games tomorrow and Wednesday. 1 o'clock game on Thursday. The Tigers, they're third in the AL Central. It's crazy to me. Only 4 teams in all of the American League are above 500. The Tampa Bay Rays 27-13, Yankees 26-16, Guardians 22-21, and the Athletics, to my surprise, 21-19. Everybody else in the American League below 500. The Tigers are 19-22 coming into this series. The Mets should be able to hang with them. Of course, we will not see Tarek Skubal, who is having surgery for loose bodies in his elbow. But still, nonetheless, that does not mean that this will not be a formidable team. We look at the pitching matchups for this series. Jack Flaherty taking the hill for the Tigers tomorrow. He's 0-3 with a 5.56 ERA. Going up against our old pal, 5-inning Freddie Peralta, who's 2-3 with a 3.12 ERA. Then we have to be determined on Wednesday on both sides, to be determined on Thursday on both sides. And with the Yankees coming to Citi Field this weekend, the Mets have to. They absolutely have to. They absolutely have to win this Tiger series, because I think depending on what the pitching matchups are this weekend for the Subway Series, the Yankees might kick the Mets' teeth in. I can't even give an accurate prediction because there's only one pitching matchup, but I do feel that the Mets should be able to win at least tomorrow. Freddie Peralta, again, I love Peralta, but 5-inning Freddie, who may be a trade deadline candidate at the deadline. He's the Mets' second best pitcher in the rotation behind Nolan McLean. He's going up against Jack Flaherty, who's been awful this season, 0-3 with a 5.56 ERA. I think that's the Mets' best chance to win in this series tomorrow, opening up hot. Again, that game is at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. First pitch at Citi Field. Mets back home, 6-game homestand. We look at the Mets' current schedule here. And again, like I said, the Mets going up against the Tigers for 3 at Citi Field. Then they host the Yankees in part 1 of this year's Subway Series. Subway Series resumes in September, September 10 to the 12th in the Bronx for part 2. So that's months from now. And then after Sunday, the Mets are on the road Monday, 4 games set in Washington before going over to Miami the following weekend, before coming back from on Memorial Day to face the Cincinnati Reds before hosting the Marlins again. So this Mets team, they have, outside of the Yankee series, Washington and Miami both slumping, so I think they could gain some ground. They play Miami twice in the span of a week, so a lot of familiarity there. But yeah, this Mets team has got to turn around. They've got to do better. If the Mets can't get to 500 by at least the trade deadline, then it's pretty much time to pack it up, call it a season. Already 10 games under 500. So, other than that, the latest transaction news here. Injury updates. Jorge Polanco, who's been suffering from left Achilles bursitis, right wrist contusion. His expected return is supposed to be this month, but Mets manager Carlos Mendoza has said Polanco's wrist soreness has improved, but the Achilles issues continue to persist. Polanco did participate in baseball activities on Saturday afternoon before the Mets did play the Diamondbacks, but he'll be continued to be evaluated as he continues to experience, and I quote, some good days and some other days when it's not as good. We covered A.J. Minter on the last edition of the report, but Minter expected to return late May or June, the earliest. He threw a bullpen session on Saturday and did not experience any hip discomfort, which set him back from his expected timetable of this weekend he was supposed to return. Carlos Mendoza called it a good sign. Minter is going to throw additional bullpen sessions before the Mets consider a return to game action. Kodai Senga, who has been out with a lumbar spine inflammation since April 28th. There's no timetable for his return. He restarted a throwing program on May 6th, after 9 days after he received an epidural, and was scheduled to throw a bullpen session on May 10th, which was this past Friday. He had been experiencing back discomforts in spring training, but did not report the discomfort until April 26th. So that is that. So do what you will with that information. Yeah, this Mets team is banged up. You want to look at the Mets on the injured list? Jorge Polanco, A.J. Minter, Kodai Senga, Ronnie Mauricio, Luis Robert Jr., and Francisco Lindor. As well, Jarrett Young as well. So A lot of Mets banged up. Let's get to the comments before we get out of here. Some last minute comments. Alfredo Flores says losing Pete Alonso reminds him of the Robin Ventura trade to the Yankees for David Justice. Very stupid trade. Clinton Alexander says it's worse because Ventura was just a trade that didn't work. The Mets had Pete Alonso in-house and ready to re-sign and chose Lindor over Pete. No, Lindor signed in 2021. David Stearns felt that Alonso wasn't worth the money and cited his lack of defense as a reason to move on from him. Even with the lack of defense, Pete Alonso's defense is not the reason the team collapsed last season. That was one of the things that kept them in his offense is one of the things that kept them in the hunt for as long as they were, down to the last day of the season. Glenn Alexander says Lindor didn't want Pete on the team. Yes, well, let's talk about Francisco Lindor real quick. Didn't like Jeff McNeil. Didn't like Brandon Nimmo. Now there are reports that he didn't get along with Pete Alonso. At some point you got to look at the common denominator. The heart and soul was purged out of the team. I mean, Brandon Nimmo said his relationship with Lindor is good, but of course he's going to say that. He doesn't want a PR nightmare. Jeff McNeil, they claim they saw a raccoon in the tunnel when it was more of a chokehold than a fight. But, and now Lindor apparently doesn't get along with Soto. And if I'm David Stearns, as a matter of fact, I would never want to be David Stearns. I don't want to be some smug Harvard idiot. But if I'm Steve Cohen and I had to pick between Soto and Lindor, I'm picking Soto every time. Especially because now that Lindor is aging, it hurt more. More on that. Alfredo Flores says Mets' first worst season to win more than 90 games was in 2003. I think he meant to lose 90 games. Yep, there you go. So, I mean, hey, it is what it is. But Mets, Tigers tomorrow, AJ Ewing debut. We will have the coverage here. Stay tuned throughout the week because we will bring you all of the news, the happenings. Subway Series is Friday. So, yeah, I've said everything that there is to say. And the only thing left to say is LFGM, let's go Mets. Stay tuned to the channel. I will be bringing you much more Mets news and updates. Subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't, and I'll see you.